RÜFÜS DU SOL. One of the most captivating electronic acts of this generation have created a signature sound that blends emotional depth, atmospheric textures, organic drums and electronic synths. The Australian electronic band is known for their incredible live performances and introspective lyrics, and with their tracks like Inner Bloom or their latest album Inhale Exhale, they have redefined electronic music. I'm Yanick from the Producer School, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make music like RÜFÜS DU SOL. I'm breaking down all the essentials like the synths, drums, mixing, arrangement, and we're even going to create a typical RÜFÜS DU style vocal. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and with that being said, let's get straight into this. First, I'm going to set the tempo of the project to 120 BPM. Most RÜFÜS DU SOL tracks are a little bit slower than the usual dance tracks, so 120 BPM is a good starting point. I first want to create the theme of the track, and to do this I'm going to start with this Pluck synth sound. All the sounds that I'm using, by the way, in this video are from our latest melodic techno and melodic house producer pack Voyage. So all the presets, samples, and basically everything that I'm using today is from that pack. So if you want to check that out and find more information about it, then use the link in the description or just simply click the link over here. So this is the sound I will be using, and I want to create a kind of repetitive melody that just stays on the same note throughout the whole track, which will sound something like this. So let's hit record in this pattern. Something like that already can work. Let's quantize it, shorten the note. And let's tweak the velocity a little bit. Make these a little bit lower in velocity, and this one as well. Something like that can work. Let's just copy this all over, put it into the playlist, because this will just be repeating throughout the whole track. And we probably are going to modulate it, like open up the cutoff to keep things interesting, because this is a technique RÜFÜS DU SOL likes to do as well. Modulate synths that are pretty simple, but because of the modulations they are becoming interesting and are really brought to life. Let's add some effects to these chords. First of all, I want to add a little bit of saturation and distortion with Decapitator, just to give it a nice extra touch. Makes it sound a little bit warmer as well. Let's add an EQ and remove a lot of the low end, because that will leave some space for the bass that I will add later on. Something like that should work. Now let's add a sustained bass step sound like this one. A really fat analog bass step made in Serum. Preset is called Pivotal, and it's made using two oscillators, saw wavetables, and one of them is a little bit detuned, which creates this nice analog effect. There is an envelope going on the filter, which creates this nice stabby sound, and there are some effects on it like distortion and chorus to make it a little bit wider as well. Now let's find a nice bass pattern for it. I want to do something similar to the track On My Knees by RÜFÜS DU SOL, so let's do something like that. Alright, that should work. Let's add it underneath Pluck Chords. And let's go for some effects on this bass. First, I'm gonna remove some of the low end, because I'm going to add another more driving bass after this one, which will be more like the sub bass. So this one doesn't need all of that low end, because the other bass will take care of that. So let's remove some of the low end. A little bit of the high mids. Here could work. Now let's add a decapitator for some more saturation and distortion. Let's set the drive to 2. I think this B style is really cool. Works well. Drop down the volume a little bit. Let's also add an OTT for a little bit of multiband compression. Just like 15%. That's great. I'm gonna add a little bit of reverb as well, just to make it sound a little bit bigger. So it's like in a bigger space, but I'm going to add a low cut to it, so it doesn't have the low frequencies in the reverb. Makes my mixing a little bit easier. That's nice. Decrease the stereo separation, so the reverb is a little bit more mono. Like this. For the actual bass of the track, I'm going to copy the bass notes that we just created and add it into a new pattern. I'm going to be using this sound. It's a preset called Breathing from our Voyage pack, and it sounds like this. Also a very warm, almost analog sounding bass, which consists out of a saw and then a square wave for the real sub. It has a little bit of modulation going on the cutoff with envelope 1, so the decay is around 500 milliseconds and the sustain is dragged almost all the way down. I'm going to create this driving or kind of rolling bass sound that you can hear in a lot of RÜFÜS DU SOL tracks, which plays a simple pattern like this. And this is gonna sound really cool together with the drums later on. Let's process it a little bit. First, I'm going to add an EQ to remove a little bit of the high end. A decapitator to add back some extra warmth. And then let's also add a compressor to it, so it's a little bit more compressed. Let's lower down the ratio a little bit. Something like that. Now let's add a kick drum from our Voyage pack. Want to look for a deep and punchy kick. This one can work. There's some nice high end to it as well. Really fat kick. Now the bass definitely needs some sidechain, so I'm going to add a kickstart for it. Let's select the sidechain input as well, which is the kick, and then hit audio. Pretty heavy sidechain because it's a big kick and you want to leave space for both the kick and the bass to play at some part. So that's why I'm having some heavy sidechaining on this one, also to get like a groove and a flowing effect. Now I'm going to add a very high Synthcussion kind of sound, which sounds something like this. Just to have as a repetitive kind of percussive element in the track as well. Let's add this pattern here and create something like this. Try the velocity of the MIDI. That can work, then just copy it a few times over. And those little synths, almost like percussion sounds, really give this track that RÜFÜS DU SOL style feel, which is amazing. Now let's add the lead sound for this track. For the lead, I'm going to use a preset called Dream from our Voyage pack, which is a very big super saw lead. And there's quite a lot of reverb on it in the effects section. So you get this really atmospheric, almost like stadium feel, which the RÜFÜS DU SOL tracks really have. There are some fine-tuned modulations going on for both oscillators, so it sounds a little bit more analog. So it fine tunes gradually and gives that RÜFÜS DU SOL feel as well. For the melody, I have something in my head like this. Something like that. Let me just put it into the piano roll. That's maybe a little bit easier. And then here. Let's add it to the rest of the track and see how that sounds. I'm also going to add a little bit more sidechain. There's not even sidechain on the pluck sound, just to get that groove of the rest of the track. Same goes for the lead, just a little bit of sidechaining. Maybe some EQ as well on the lead sound. I think I can make the lead sound a little bit more kind of analog. So to do that, I'm going to add a plugin called RC20 Retro Color, which is an amazing plugin to use as a kind of analog effect to your sounds. I have this preset called lead, which I made. So what it essentially has is a little bit of wobble, so a little bit more like pitch fluctuations, and a little bit of distortion to boost it a little bit more. And this makes it sound a lot more like warm. Also removes a little bit of the high end, which is nice. Going down the volume. And then one more synth sound I'm going to add for now is a pad sound, which is a preset called Blessing. It's made from some Juno wavetables from Serum. It has some modulations going on the fine tuning, so it sounds a little bit more analog. And I'd say this is a typical RÜFÜS DU SOL sound. And now just like cut here because I'm not going to put in the chords manually. Alright, I wrote some chords that follow the bass line. So F, C sharp, D sharp, and then A sharp. And it sounds like this. Let's add an EQ to this path to add a low cut, and then add it to the rest of the track. Alright, I quickly added some drums which sound together like this. And now let me show you all the layers that are there. In the first part of the drop, there's only just the clap or wooden clap playing. But it's filtered, as you can see, with the automation here. So it's not fully there yet. Then there is this tom sound with a lot of reverb on it, just to help with the atmosphere of the track. And then at the second part there are more drums coming in, like this open head loop. The clap consists out of 3 layers. First of all, there is a normal clap, then a percussion sound, which sounds like a wood hit, and then this sound, which is used for the transients. Then later I extended the full sample. Then there are some open heads playing on every offbeat. Quite a lot of shaker loops, as RÜFÜS DU SOL likes to use those as well. Tambourine loop. Another head loop. And then some percussion loops like this one. And this one, which is a kind of metal sound. Then and with the bass. I just added some effect sounds as well. First of all, there is some ambient noise, which gives an organic texture to the track. A drone sound, which just stays on the root note of the track, also helps with the atmosphere. Then some vocal atmospheres, just low in volume, so there's enough room for like other vocals that are coming in later. Then some impacts like downlifters and uplifters, basic stuff. I created a simple arrangement for the track, which I will explain to you right now. The track starts off with just the plucky chords that are playing throughout the whole track, and some ambience as kind of intro and set the mood for the track. Then the bass step comes in, the vocal atmosphere as well, and the pad here as well. And this part over here will be the first verse of the track when we add vocals later on. Then it transitions with some sweeps into the pre-chorus or build-up. A few drum loops are introduced, like the shaker loop. We get some things going. Also this tambourine. The bass gets introduced here as well. And then at this part, the head and the clap are joining as well. For this pre-chorus or build-up part, there are a few automations going on. First of all, there is an automation on the bass, which is also used in the drop actually, which opens up the cutoff slightly towards the end. Then there is a high-pass filter on the master, which is removing the low end of the track. So then the listener knows something is coming and the drop has a better impact then as well. Then there is a filter cutoff automation for the plucky chords. So towards the end of the build-up, they open up more and more. And then it's closed again. And this automation is also used in the intro, just to slowly build it up and add some movement to the sound. And then the drop hits with just the lead, which I already showed you. One of the most important things of a RÜFÜS DU SOL track are the vocals, which are done by one of their members called Tyrone. And for the track of this video, I really wanted to include vocals as well. So what I did is that I recorded my own voice, some lyrics that I thought of, nothing really crazy. It sounds pretty bad. There's a little bit of auto-tune on it, but that's all really. It sounds like this. Can you hold me closer? 'Cause I'm running away. I'm reaching for your light, but it's fading. I'm not a good singer at all, but I did something very interesting, and that is that I trained an AI model on the voice of RÜFÜS DU SOL. I'm using a platform called Audemy. We did a video for this platform a while ago as well. And with this platform, you can basically transform your voice into other voices which are available on the platform, and they are free to use there as well. But you can also train your own voices. So that's what we did for this video. We used a lot of a cappella from the RÜFÜS DU SOL tracks and then let the AI model train based on these a cappellas. And in that way I could really recreate the vocal of Tyrone for this video to get a really typical RÜFÜS DU SOL sound. Please note that this is just for educational purposes only, and you cannot just copy someone else's voice and use that in your tracks and release commercially. It's just here to show you what is possible nowadays. So as you can see over here, we have the voice of Rufus. Then if we go to convert vocals and you load in the vocal, so I'm loading in the vocal that I just made. Don't let go, we're more than the silence. Then I selected the voice model of Rufus here. As you can see, there are a bunch of other voice models which you can use actually, which is really great. But for this one, I'm using the Rufus voice. And then I set the conversion strength to 100% and hit convert. And now it's converting my voice into the Rufus voice. So it's converted into the Rufus voice and now it sounds like this.
Don't let go, we're more than the silence. Through the storm, we'll break the defiance.
As you can hear, the quality of the voice is not that good and it sounds like a little stretched. And that's because we used a cappellas that we could find online from Rufus and they are usually not the best quality. So the output is also lower quality, which makes sense. With a little bit of reverb, it already sounds better.
Don't let go, we're more than the silence.
And I also copied the layer and added 2 higher octaves of the voice.
Don't let go.
And then I panned each of them 50% to the right and the other one to the left. I used another voice model of Army, probably like a voice that works a little bit better. So you can just select a voice here and I picked like Mark, a male, and then put it 1 octave higher, which sounds like this. And then together with the vocal of Tyrone.
Don't let go, we're more than the silence.
We're kind of masking that lower quality output that we got from his voice.
Don't let go, we're more than the...
And in the mix it sounds pretty good. And it's crazy to see how far AI has come that we can now just copy a voice from someone. It's a little bit scary as well, so I wouldn't recommend to use these kind of things commercially because you can get into some copyright problems. But for this video, I just want to show you that it is possible. In the second part of the drop, I have these layers, which are some ad-libs, typical RÜFÜS DU SOL kind of ad-libs, which consist out of a layer of Tyrone's voice, a lower voice, is really low in volume, and then some more stacked layers, and together everything. For the processing for these kind of gang vocals, I added a decapitator, just to add some extra saturation, an EQ, a chorus to make it a little bit wider, and then a delay and a big reverb, and some kickstart for sidechaining. And that's all basically. And now this is the final result.
Running away, I'm reaching for you.
And that's everything for this RÜFÜS DU SOL style track. If you have any questions about things that I did in this video or about the AI model or basically anything, then feel free to drop a comment and I will try to get back to you on there. Check out all the sounds that I used from this video in our brand new melodic techno and melodic house produced by Voyage. And for now, I want to thank you guys so much for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.